Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. I am your host, Corey C., and I'm here with a very special guest today, Walrus from the HowToPulse team, and he's looking fantastic. I'm loving the suit and tie while I'm wearing a little tap-out shirt. How are you
Appreciate you,
today?
brother. Appreciate you. Yep. Just one of those things I'm known for, man. Although I'm gonna have to tell everybody I let them down. I don't have a cigar or a whiskey in hand today, but I dressed up for y'all, so I did what I could.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming on. I mean, I know you were one of the most people who were most supportive of me when I first got into Pulsechain originally. So it's glad to finally speak to you in a formal way. So I really appreciate your time as well, and I appreciate us being able to do this right now, especially with the PulseX sacrifice going on, and so many people learning about Pulsechain and PulseX and Hex. So, I'm really excited to talk about this.
Yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff going on in the space, man. Yeah, you jumped in at a great time. You did a couple of interviews that got a lot of good information out. I'm a good friends with Long Vacation, and I still watched the interview and thought there was cool stuff that came out of that. Same with Hod Prol and Gaff. You've hit a lot of the highlights on members. You had Gunther along, got to go eat lunch with the cat, man. So you
Yeah,
you dove into the deep end of a lot of the prominent guys that have been doing a lot for the community, man. So believe us, man, we're as happy to have you as you are to have us.
thanks a lot, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, it was almost instantaneous per se. The second it started, I got to thank Eon or Eon for helping me get these interviews. He's helped me a lot, very supportive, and all you guys have been supportive. So I really appreciate it. So I know one of the requests today was to get into, before we get into how to pulse and the intricacies of it, was to share our journeys in blockchain and cryptocurrency. So, I'd love to hear your beginnings and how it started and how you got into blockchain, and then I'll go right after you.
Sure. So I initially got in actually pretty early relative to what I've done now. So I got in around like 2014,
Oh
and it
wow.
was very much the counterculture.
Mhm.
I found there was money outside of the little sphere of influence here in the States. Then I understood, the Silk Road, sort of all those gravitating things at the time. And, for a young rebellious cat who likes is very much a free thinker, I was like, wait a minute, you're telling me there's money not controlled by the government that you can go buy illegal stuff with? All right, I'm in. And it was one of those things that I didn't even want to do illegal things, but I wanted to be able to do illegal things if I wanted to, right?
Absolutely.
As funny as that was, so it was very much along the lines of that cyberpunk kind of movement.
Mhm.
So I had some Bitcoin. I bought a few things on the Silk Road, just small stuff, bought a little weed and things like that. I think I bought bullets one time because I thought it was awesome.
That's awesome.
So a few of those little things. It was not, but it was really more about the path. I wasn't getting anything from it that I couldn't have gotten other ways. It
Mhm.
was just very unique, just the whole concept of the chain, and that's what drove me in. And one of the really funny experiences I had was right around after Ethereum had launched somewhere now. I'm terrible with time, but I'd had like 3 or 4 grand in Bitcoin at the time, and I caught one of the big spikes, and it went up to just over 10 grand. So I caught like a 3x. And you would think, so I'm probably 25, 26 at this point. You'd think, being the guy that everyone speaks to now, you think I'd be smart enough to say, wow, my money just tripled. I see all these millionaires and these guys making gains. This is something I should be involved in. When I tell you guys that I literally looked at the screen, was like, oh, wow, I got a bunch more Bitcoin. Cool. And set the phone. And I just moved on. Like, it didn't even register in my brain that I had done nothing and tripled my bag. It just didn't hit in the brain. It just didn't go by the hypothalamus, man. It just didn't sink in. So I just went on. I spent a little bit and did other things. And even as I'm sitting here reading about people making money and I'm grinding and doing my own thing, it didn't hit that this was a real way, that there was ways to make a lot of profit. So I found RH pretty early on, and I just thought RH was an interesting thinker. One of my favorite things he did was when he talked to Roger Ver early on, because
Mhm.
aside all the things that Roger Ver's done, I know a lot of people have negative things about him. He's a very interesting cat. He's very intelligent. He's very pro freedom and choice. So I have a lot of positive things to say about him. So when I heard those guys talk, that was, again, that resonated with me, that freedom aspect. And then the same thing, when it came around to Hex and everything. So I knew when Hex was out and it was launching. And again, it was one of those things that it was almost like watching a sport to me. I was like, oh, my guy RH is going to put out something crazy that's going to like, crush and do well. Never registers again mentally that like, hey, this is going to be valuable. You should probably have some of this. So again, it was pretty funny. It wasn't until, let's see, what was that? Basically the beginning of the end of 2020 and beginning of 2021 that I really started to move larger bags. And I'd had holdings, and again, as they went up, it just still didn't hit. So I hadn't really taken the investor mind state until really about the last 2.5 years or so. And then naturally, been in Hex, obviously I'm spent a lot of time, put a lot of energy into Pulsechain and Pulsex as well. And then, I'm getting anyone who cares to listen to this probably knows where I've been the last 8 months, because you probably talked to me almost every single day for the last 8 months. So now I'm here and hanging out with one of the great guys putting out good content in our space, Corey, and that keeps us up to date.
Thank you. I'm very humbled by that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate all the work that you do. And I appreciate the support that you put in for Hex, Pulse, and Pulsechain and Pulsex. I see you everywhere. It's incredible what you've done for the community. And it's important, especially now with an uncertain market where a lot of the new investors have come in who have unfortunately they've been sold a dream by influencers that are much higher than us, that Bitcoin was going to go to 100K in 2021 and there was going to be another altcoin season. And, now kind of reality is waking up. But I'm not saying we're going to continue to go down. But what I am saying is that reality hit once New Year's Day hit and Bitcoin didn't hit 100K. So now it's even more important for people to continuously work during this time of uncertainty to prove that people still have passion and people are here to build and people are here for the longevity of the industry rather than just a quick day per se. So,
sure. Time and market. That's the most important thing in crypto. The two things are picking the right project, time and market.
It's exactly what it is. I couldn't agree more. So my story is a little bit different, a lot different. I know someone on Twitter asked me because I know I've put bits and pieces of my history in this market. So basically, I'm 26 now. So I really didn't hear about Bitcoin until I remember in playing online games like World of Warcraft, and people would say Bitcoin here and there, and I really didn't care about what it was. I was 13, 14 when it happened. And then what happened was, it's so amazing how life puts you in places where it takes you from one place to another. Because I worked at Petco, and if I didn't work at Petco in 2017, I would have probably never gotten to cryptocurrency. So I had a friend of mine in April of 2017, brightest man I've ever met in my entire life. I believe he's in Ohio now. His name's Daniel. I'm not going to say his last name, but his name is Daniel. And he said to me, he was talking about wealth, and he worked at Petco. And I'm like, so I don't understand it. I was like, how are you working at Petco as a sales associate, but you said you made all this money? He's like, well, Corey, I got into Bitcoin, and I was like, I've heard of Bitcoin. What is this? What? Is it internet money? Is it currency? Kind of the way I equate it was it WoW gold, something like that? And he was like, well, it's peer-to-peer currency where the government is not involved. And as a small government type of guy, I was very enticed by this. And he basically said to me, he was like, I made $70,000 off of Bitcoin. And at the time, he was like, I'm a big whale in a cryptocurrency called Gollum. And started really, really getting attracted to this notion of making big money, because at the time, I saved for 2 years at Petco making $10 an hour. I saved 10 grand up, and I was like, you know what? I'm in college right now. The only way to become wealthy from my own research is to invest in things that have ROI potential. And he started talking to me about it. He started telling me about his story about how unfortunately he didn't know anything about money management, and he made all this money off of Bitcoin, but then moved to Midtown. And if you know about Midtown, it's literally he spent $6 grand a month on a studio apartment, and he lost all his money.
Living life.
Yeah. So he lost all his money, and then he started really grinding again in cryptocurrency and made it all back. So he literally took me under his wing in May of 2017. And at first I wouldn't pay any mind to it. So not accidentally, I bought Ethereum from my bank account on Coinbase in May of 2017, early May. And it took back in the day, I don't know if certain bank accounts still does this on Coinbase, but it took 4 days for it to come into my account. Now, mind you, I bought Ethereum. I put about $1,500 in at Ethereum at the time was about $130. And then when I finally got the Ethereum, it was like 250, 300. So I made like $2.5 grand in 2 days. And I'm like, as a 21-year-old kid, I'm like, all right.
On accident, waiting.
On accident. I was like, all right,
Right.
this is not a joke here. So every single day I would hit this guy up and ask him, like, what is Ethereum? What is peer-to-peer networks? How do I send Bitcoin to an Ethereum wallet? And then like he told me he couldn't do that. And like I would, back in the day, like you could use HitBTC, you could use Bittrex, you can use Binance. So I was all over the place and I was just learning. And he unfortunately got fired because he was paying for veterans. He was paying basically any veteran that came up to the cashier's register, he would pay for their product. He would pay for their merchandise. And I guess he got fired for that. And then,
Wow.
then he made enough money off of Gollum back in 2017 where he cashed out and he built a house in Ohio for his homeless cousins. And I think he's living there now. But in late 2017, I got into Substratum and Ethos. I was naive. I was foolish. Back in the day, Ethos was Bitcoins. And I saw my portfolio go up from $2,000 to $100K, and I was like ecstatic, but I was greedy and didn't cash out any of it, and watched it go down to, remember 2018, 2019, I watched it go down to $700. So I started grinding, and I'm very happy where I am now. Fast forward 2021, 2022, I started working in the space in 2018, and that's kind of where I am at now, where I'm focusing on YouTube, and I've worked with different companies. So that's really the introduction of how I got into cryptocurrency. Very interesting way, especially in a place like Petco.
Yeah, the thing that this resonates, and I wanted to bring it back up again. That was something that really hit me with that interview you did with LV, Long Vacation. So I'm a huge fan of his personally. I'm very, very fortunate to get a chance to talk to him a lot on the side privately. And he's, again, anyone that watched that interview and you've got a chance to talk to him, that guy's very bright. He's
Yes, he is.
extremely intelligent. He's very composed. He's very stoic in a way.
Yes.
He's got some charisma about him, but he's very level-headed. So whenever, I've known LV for, probably around a year now. And when you talk to LV, you're like, okay, this is a very sophisticated guy. He understands things. He gets it. It makes sense that he makes money in this place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, and when then you hear his story and he's talking about getting rug pulled and he's buying trash this and trash that. And you're like, okay. So even LV, even this super bright guy, he got his bumps and bruises and had to deal with rug pulls and was confused in the space. And to me, and then you hear, you're coming from Petco. I'm watching money triple and too dumb to realize how big a deal it actually is. So yeah, I just want to remind that to everyone who's watching, who hasn't been in the space that long, that, if you see some of the people who are, creating content now, who are doing a lot in the community, we were really, really dumb not that long ago. Even as smart guys, we were doing really stupid stuff. We've blown 6 figures. LV's gotten rug pulled. I watched money triple and was too dumb to realize, we've gone through all these things. So you don't have to be this super sophisticated investor to take some time, research, pick a project and hold. Like you don't have to be that guy to make a lot of money here. You don't have to be this eclectic VC. There's gonna be a lot of people you see that may seem very sophisticated now that not that long ago had no idea what they were doing. And it's very easy to be profitable if you take your time, do some research, and just hold through the bumps.
I absolutely agree. I couldn't have said it better myself that, the bumps, I will say, for those who are new in this industry, if you came in here and all you experienced was a bull market, you'll be very humbled when this market inevitably collapses, like it always does.
For sure.
And that's
it's a cycle. It moves.
I'm sorry, what were you gonna say, Will?
I said it's a cycle. It moves. It goes up and it goes down. Part of that high upside is because of volatility. If people aren't locking in losses, you don't make higher highs. It's part of the game.
It's true. And for those who are new or even old who still haven't learned from 2017, because it's very apparent that many didn't, that you got to learn, you got to be able to be humble and understand that going through the motions of this market, there will be times of psychological distress. There will be times of emotional difficulty if you're not level-headed. And I learned that early on. Like I was 21 years old with $120,000 portfolio, and I became like an idiotic narcissist and a megalomaniac for a while. And then once the market collapsed, it kind of hit me, and I'm like, oh, I'm a bit of a moron here. And and I'm grateful it happened. I'm really grateful it happened, because if it didn't happen, I wouldn't have taken this space as seriously as I do today. And it's amazing how a collapse could lead to passion. That's the way that's the way I put it, at least. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
but I
Yeah,
really,
it's one of those things that it's a good thing to take that kick in the shin at 100K rather than ride it out now. If you'd still been on that wave, you catch some of these big gains that we're likely to see in 2022 in our projects, and all of
mhm,
a sudden you're trying to have that same issue with a couple million. It can get out of hand quick. So
mhm,
it's always good to take those lessons along the way. See the people that whose footsteps you're walking in.
yep,
Remember that in a lot of these cases we're sitting on the shoulders of giants, and be safe with that money. Make sure what you're doing has market fit. Know that the market's volatile, that it has cycles, and be prepared to ride those waves.
exactly. And the last thing I want to say before we start talking about how to pulse is always remember who stays in this market during a bear market. Be very, very vigilant on those YouTubers, including myself, because I'm a YouTuber now. The YouTubers and the Twitter influencers, I say that in quotations, who come here during a bull market after 3 years of not being here, and then once the market collapses, they disappear. Be very, very careful of those people. I'm not going to name any names because I can name a shitload of influencers um,
Right.
that I can name on here, but I'm not going to. And some of those people I followed in 2017. So be very vigilant on that respect. So yeah.
On that note, one thing that's interesting is I'm very a big fan of game systems in general. I like game
Mhm.
theory. I even like fantasy football. I like poker. I like solving problems. So there's a really good book by a ex professional poker player named Annie Duke, and she wrote Thinking in Bets. And that in analytics and sports are things that really help a lot with decision making. So to tie it back to what you're getting at is basically in the beginning of this bull run, in the beginning of 2021, if
Mhm.
anyone had projected any huge upside for any crypto, they were right. But
Mhm.
they weren't right because why? They were right because Bitcoin drug everything up with it, right?
Exactly.
So it's important that when we watch these things, we understand what is causational, correlational, and what is actually predictive of the future. So a goofy one I like to use is the numbers are a little off now, but over the last like 20 years, 40% of the Super Bowls have been won by a guy named Tom. So all you need to do is go get a
Really?
quarterback named Tom, right?
Mhm.
No, it's not because his name's Tom. It's because Tom's Tom Brady, and
Right.
because the best quarterback play is very predictive of future success. So what it says is that you're very likely to be successful having elite quarterback play, but it's not because his name's Tom. It's just because the best quarterback alive's name is Tom, right? So you got to
Absolutely.
look at things that are actually predictive of future events versus correlating with future events. So all these people that were just, oh, this project's going to the moon, or this, or
Mhm.
this, or that, they they were, if you say that they were correct, they made bad decisions. They
Mhm.
happen to be right. That's called resulting in poker, right? If if I have pocket aces and I bet big and then lose to suited connectors or some low probability hand, I made a right decision. I just didn't get the result I wanted. And then we see this in all kinds of things. So it's important to look at when these people talk, you know, what's causational, what's correlational, and what's really predictive of future events. It's not just calling one up. It's
Mhm.
you got to look at the totality of these things and see what's predictive for future events to really make good decisions.
I couldn't agree more. I absolutely agree that these people think that these new investors think that these people are gurus, and realistically speaking, they just know how to predict things based off of specific past events.
Well,
That
in a bull market, everyone's right.
exactly. It's literally
You know what I
everyone's
mean?
always correct. Everything goes up.
Exactly. So when you get that big pull, it makes it seem like there's a sophistication and decision making behind it when everything went up. Like it's again, you'll hear that everyone can make money in a bull market,
Mhm.
especially the trader mind states. Let those guys get in a bear market, then see who's making money.
I
It
agree.
ain't very many of them, and that's not a game I want to play. But again, it's one of those just to understand those relationships.
No, amen to that, brother. I couldn't agree more. That's a very humbling. It's a very humbling notion, to say the least. But I'm really excited also to talk about how to pulse. And I know you've been very active on how to pulse. I know you're part of the team. So
Hmm.
let me ask you this: what made you join the How to Pulse team? What was the catalyst?
Those guys are fucking awesome. That's the answer, man. They're incredible. When you look at all those guys, I mean, if you guys have been on the site's incredible. Their market cap site using real market cap and fixing some of the issues that we've seen with coin market cap and even a little bit with nomics. They have the predictors for price when it comes to, looking at what the sacrifice rate was. They have the balance checker, which again is a little off because we're looking for more input there. But it's just quality stuff. They brought me on as basically, a bit of a mouthpiece, really. So I don't want to take too much credit for what all those guys are doing. It's a lot of great work. They're participating in a lot of upcoming events as well. So I can't leak out too much of what's coming, but these guys are working hard behind the scenes. As I always try to remind everyone, a lot of times I'm parroting what really, really big minds have taught me. So just always remember that I'm a mouthpiece for some of the really, really educated people we have in the space. And when it comes to HowToPulse, most of the time you're hearing it from my mouth, but these are the guys out here building. These are the guys out here really, doing dev work that the rest of us can't work on, whether they're
Mm.
pushing envelopes, trying to get, money transmitter issues handled so that we have on ramps, whether it's bridging, whether it's Ruth and these, them really, really designing interesting and cool things. The most of the people doing the hardest work don't talk very often. So,
Amen to that.
we want to make sure we just shout those guys out as much as we can.
It's always the humble ones that are the ones that do the most. I mean, the people who it's like the saying that the smallest dog always has the biggest bark. The big dog doesn't need to prove itself. So
Yeah.
that's amazing. I like how, as a background in education, I really like how to Pulse is taking a focus, which I really don't see anybody else doing. A focus on education and a focus on helping people understand Pulsechain and the intricacies of the project, because Pulsechain, even though it was announced almost half a year ago now, it's still a very new phenomenon in a lot of different ways. And it's great that we have a specific component of the community that's working on education. So let me ask you.
One of the big points on education. Sorry to jump you off there.
No, go
One of
ahead.
the
Go
things
ahead.
about education that sometimes can be a little misunderstood is that if you truly build amazing things, sometimes it takes very educated people to really see the difference, right?
Absolutely.
So there's a phrase from the Quran that's one of my favorites. That this is butchered, by the way, because it's always translated 3 times. But the quote basically says that men of science are closer to God because they better understand the beauty He creates.
Amen to
So
that. That is so true.
right. So if you look at a Lamborghini, that it's a pretty car, but an engineer knows how pretty that car is.
Mhm.
It can look at the carbon ceramic in the brake, the monoblock calipers, the looking at the drag coefficients, these things. And it's the same thing in crypto. If you do build good products and you do build highly liquid dexes like Pulsex, and you do build extremely fast, high throughput, EVM forks like Pulsechain, the more educated the populace is, the more they're going to understand how good what we're building is. So the education is in a way what it takes to shill very, very intricate things. So, we always want people to buy into people, to buy into RH, the message, the vibe. That's important because there's just there's a substantial minority that's not going to do the research. But it's similar to a doctor in that I don't necessarily need to know what the doctor knows. I just need to know he knows what he knows. I just need to know that he understands what's going on, that he's an expert. So sometimes the education is really there to make sure that those who want to understand the intricacies do, but we also just want people to understand that we know what we're doing. So it's a vote of confidence in the people building, and to make sure that those that want to participate at the highest level can. So education is really important, both for a transparency aspect and making sure that the more educated the crypto market gets, the more they understand things RH says, the more they understand our messages, the more these intricacies and then the subtle differences between BSC and Solana and all these other layer ones that are having problems and what we're building is. So education is crucial.
I couldn't agree more, and that was beautifully said. On an empirical level, I want to say that I absolutely agree. Most people do not do their own research, and that's a big problem. And I know that because the fact, I mean, even in the Pulsechain community, in PulseX specifically right now, that's why I made the do's and don'ts to PulseX sacrifice and a video about a week ago. And on the video, literally, I was looking and saying, guys, there are some of you literally sacrificing right now to the wrong address. Do 5 minutes of research and you'll find out what you're doing that's screwing up. So, you know, and a lot of these people still don't know that they sacrificed wrong, and they're going to wake up to a rude awakening when Pulsechain launches, whenever it does, in March, April, whatever it is. And they're going to wake up to a rude awakening. And that's unfortunate because they didn't want to take the time to educate themselves and just take a little bit of time out. That's another thing. In order to become wealthy in this space, and I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm rich at all, but I am going to say that in order to make money in this space is you need to do your own research. You need to love educating yourself, because if you're going to blindly put money into something, yeah, you may make a big hit. You may, but you may not. So with that being said, other than the tools and website, what has HowToPulse been doing for the community?
So there's a bit of a double-edged sword when it comes to the Hex community and RH. So there's RH is a very polarizing character, which I actually really prefer. There's Floyd Mayweather is one of my favorite fighters of all time, and he has a quote that I think really resonates with RH's general demeanor. He said that some people come to see me win, some people come to see me lose, but everybody pays. You know, so there's that polarizing aspect that even when people hate RH, a lot of times they love to hate RH, right? He's a if you don't like him, he's a very fun guy to go after, right? Because he's very flamboyant, he's very loud, he's very unforgiving in his approaches. So that's why so many of us love him. And it's caused a lot of the Hex community to be very vibrant. You know, they're very strong-willed. You've seen it. You know, you do a lot of great content on other projects, but you don't get the traction you do in our community, man. When people show us love, it's strong. We care. We really care.
I really have to. I'm sorry. I have to really attribute a lot of my subscriber count over the last 6 months, if not almost all, maybe 90% of the 1,000 subscribers I've gotten since October 1100 to Hex and Pulse. Sorry to interrupt.
Right. No, of course that's it. You know, it's proof. So the you know, again, that gives us a lot of strength. We're a very, very inclusive group. A lot of us know each other. You can see how many of the streamers are on other guys' streams. You know, how many of us, you know, talk and relate. You know, a lot of us, you know, or if you're a stronger member in the community and participate a lot, you know, I know devs on the bridge team. I know, you know, we get a chance to talk to devs directly. You know, we get a chance to communicate with RH occasionally. You know, LV admins, you know, all the streamers, you know, we talk to all these guys. We all know each other. So we're very tight knit, and it allows us to have a lot of congruency in our message and great stuff. The downside is if you don't really resonate with that very particular frequency, you probably get jaded very quickly. Extremely. So where HowToPulse is, what we're really trying to do is to understand that Hex is a beautiful product. Pulsechain's a network. If you want a network to be successful, you have to network. This thing has to be big. It has to have effects. It has to bring in other communities. We have to bring in more audiences. Absolutely. So while we can sit here and you know, shill to each other and get all the pats on the backs and a bunch of, you know, bro high fives, that's fantastic. But we're trying to build something large, very large. You want to have a successful EVM fork. We talk about not being an empty chain. That means you need to have participants. Yes, you do. So it's been spending a lot of money on reaching outside of just the Hex and Pulse community. let's bring in these other hearts and minds, right? There's a lot of other communities that have things to offer, or if nothing else, they have people participating in those systems that would be better off in what we are. So if you truly believe that what you're building is better than other things, then it is in your self-interest and the interest of others to make sure they understand that. So it's not just about shilling bags. You can sort of be selfish and being unselfish. You need to get the word out and let these people know that what we're building is going to be very, very powerful for them. And that means reaching out to these other communities. So HowToPulse, as of about October, so going on 3 months, the site has had 130,000 visitors.
Wow, that's awesome.
Almost 6,000 daily visitors.
That's awesome.
We have had airdrop marketing campaigns going out. We're the creators of the Pulsechain Army, a little Twitter storm telegroup that LJ has been doing a great job. Yep. So we've been doing a lot of custom artwork and ads tailored at specific groups. So going after Sheba and Uni and the Link Marines and all these guys, trying to get all these hearts and minds. Typically when there's outreach to communities, so we can call it what it is. They want that economic mass, right? It's one meme coin trying to eat another meme coin.
Mm-hmm.
What we're trying to get out there is that, guys, do what you're doing. We love your space. We just want you to guys come interact on a better network. So it's really about outreach and adoption and pushing these things to make sure that we're not sitting in a little echo chamber. You know, if we really want to build this ecosystem, it takes more than just Hex. Of course, we're always going to be big Hex fans. We all have Hex bags, but we want the rest of these projects in. We got to spread the good word. You got to be out there and sharing the gospel. And that's what I think HowToPulse is really trying to do, is to both raise the sort of floor of education and then trying to broaden the reach of the community. This community has a lot to offer. So again, if you feel that what you offer is better than what's being out there, and if you feel that what you're saying is worthwhile, then it's, then you need to get it out there. So it really is that important. We can't sit here and sleep in silk sheets. We got to be hungry. We got to go out there and get it.
No, I absolutely agree. I love how you brought up the notion, they're paradoxes, but they work quite well together. Tribalism and echo chamber. Now, cryptocurrency still, and I believe multi-chain technology is kind of starting to finally change the ethos of this notion. But with cryptocurrency, crypto is very tribal. When you become passionate about one cryptocurrency, chances are you're not going to have the same passion about another one. And that's a big issue. That's a big problem, because what it does is it creates an echo chamber of people in the same room constantly promoting. And it doesn't matter how high you scream, if you're in the same room with the same people, nothing's going to change. I've seen this in many projects where the project has fantastic technology, where the project has a fantastic team, a fantastic community, but they're all talking to each other. They don't network. They don't understand the concept of outreach. And especially for Pulsechain specifically, because you're right, you don't want a ghost chain. You don't want a chain that is stagnant because the only people building on it are the people involved in it right now, especially given the fact that cryptocurrency right now is very tribal, and we have a potential to kind of mend that notion with Pulse, with the ability to be able to, because a vibrant community with the right mindset of outreach can do fantastic things. And I really believe that if you can amalgamate tribalism, positive tribalism, with the destruction of an echo chamber and perpetuating outreach, like what you guys are doing at HowToPulse, that's a very, very powerful combination. I think that's very important. And I like how what I'm seeing from HowToPulse is adoption seems to be a theme. Is that on purpose? I'm presuming so.
Absolutely, it is. We can lean on a strength that I don't have to worry about our community. Our community is extremely knowledgeable. They're very risk aware. They're very security centric. Again, we're very inclusive. They already know. So I don't necessarily, without even looking, if I know that you put out content on Pulse, I don't come check your stuff for errors. I'm not worried about it. I know Corey does great work. That stream's probably going to be fire. If LV is, out here working with someone, I see him talking in the chat, I don't go double check LV. LV has the same information I do. I know he's a savvy cat. and we're very comfortable with saying we don't know. Guys reach out to me, I reach out to them. Whenever I have questions on the bridge, I go talk to our experts on bridges.
Mhm.
Jesse is in here teaching up the masses when it comes to liquidity and collateralization, doing the LL stuff.
Absolutely.
We have experts, right? We lean on these things, and that comes back to a little bit of what we were talking about with these echo chambers.
Mhm.
If you aren't listening to your experts and spreading out opinions, and everyone's talking the same thing, what you take is, when you have a group of experts who all come to the same conclusion independently, that's the wisdom of the crowd. But
Mhm.
if you're in an echo chamber and everybody's just screaming the same thing, that's the madness of a crowd. That's not the same thing, right? So
True.
whenever we're able to take all these different sources that we have a community that we're not concerned with. So what should be the big goal is growing that community. Like, look, our memes are great, our logos are
Mhm.
great, our artwork's great, the communication we have, our voice chats, we have all these great things. What we need to
Absolutely.
do is just make it bigger. It's just about leveraging what we have here. I know that if I bring people to How to Pulse, they're going to feel educated and concerned. I know that if I send them to PulseX and PulseChain.com's Telegram room, that there's people there that will help. We know how strong the community is. We're just trying to basically add a force multiplier to what everyone's already doing. If I can get more people to listen to your content, they're going to participate. If I get more people to listen to LV and Papa Boner and Staker and Jesse and Ruth and Crypto Goose and all these people in the community, I know they're going to be more educated. And I know they're going to want to participate. So it's just about basically adding leverage to what we're doing here, and that's why the adoption is such a big focus of us.
That's a great way to put it. I absolutely agree. There is no project without adoption. There is no project without community. There's no project without education. So the point of adoption right now, and I actually posted this on my YouTube. I made a question. I'm actually doing a lot more community polls, and one of the questions I asked was, "What do you think is the biggest impediment on blockchain mass adoption?" And the biggest answer I got out of the 60 people who voted was the inability to on ramp new users. And that, I think, is a product of one, shitty technology in cryptocurrency for on ramping
Yep.
new users, but
Yep.
two, being a tribalistic mind, having a tribalistic mind state, and just telling these new users to get into one cryptocurrency because this, that, and the other thing. Like, you need to be able to educate people on what the hell you're investing. Like, I have two people that I'm friends with, and they got into cryptocurrency height of the bull market, and unfortunately, they didn't know what they were investing in. And I did the same thing at first, but as I was going, I was learning and learning and learning to a point where, I'm not a developer by any means, but I know my way around the blockchain. So, that's an important role, adoption. So let me ask this, and I think this is a very this next question is going to be a very opinionated question, and I like that. What are your thoughts on the Pulse Chain's estimated launch? I'm curious to hear your thoughts, and I'll say mine after.
Sure. I can feel there's a bit of anxiety, and
Mhm.
especially when you have people who aren't as involved in community, don't have the same level of comfort. As you said, it's a little different for us that go and look at the Get Lab, who can go, ask Brett or Ruth, again, all our members. When I can say, hey, what's going on here? What does this look like? What's our timeframes here? And you have a very different level of comfort. One thing that I would bring up is that it's the quality of code these guys do is incredible, and it
Absolutely.
takes time. It takes time because good enough isn't good enough, and these things, these are meant to be very long lasting things that should have a lot of again, a lot of staying power. So it does take time. The other part is that when we initially were sort of in that early phase about, we could get this out quickly, here's where we're at, here's the
Mhm.
time frame, it was, hopefully we'll have a bridge close to launch. We'll have a Uniswap front end up. All these types of things. Whereas now, we see there's a handful of different protocols that are non-RH projects that have already said that they're going to airdrop the sacrifice set.
Mhm.
We have, when this bridge comes out, you guys are going to be happy about this. The bridge is going to be incredible. Pulse X is incredible, ready to go at launch. So we have new token projects from the core team. We have what could be the most liquid AMM that's ever existed in crypto here. We have all these things that are going to be ready at launch. So while launch may have taken longer than people thought, it's launching in a much more full with a lot more architecture around it. So I think maybe there's a little longer fuse, but there's going to be a bigger bang at launch. So I
Absolutely.
still think most likely we see sometime in, March, April is the best estimates for right now. But I think when you've seen, the PulseX sacrifice numbers, the growth in all the Telegram rooms, we can see that even we may have moved one particular event, but there's constant growth. We can see all this work along the way. So I know people get itchy, but there's a lot of work being done. Everyone should be if you were bullish at the time of sacrifice, I mean, you should be just drooling, salivating at what's being built now. Like you couldn't ask for more development. You couldn't ask for more participation, better outreach, education, community. Like, it's strong, guys. It's very strong.
I absolutely agree. And I have two things I want to say to that. The first thing is it's the importance of launching successfully. For those who play video games, you remember Cyberpunk 2077? It launched, horrible launch, bugs, glitches, absolutely horrible. It was such a hyped up game, and then it basically went to shit. And today, almost a year and a half later, it still hasn't recovered. Well, I kind of don't want that for Pulsechain. The second thing is you said earlier Richard Hart's a very polarizing figure, and that's very true. And that's all of the more reason why Pulsechain needs to be perfect when it launches,
Yep.
because there will be people ready at his throat and the Hex community and the Pulsechain community's throat if there's just one exploit, if there's one glitch, if there's one bug, if Pulsechain goes down like Solana has, if Pulsechain does not operate effectively. I think people are so focused on rushing this product and not realizing that it would be more of a detriment to their investment if this product launched unsuccessfully than if we waited till March, April, and I dare say May to have a successful launch. That's my viewpoint on it. And so my last question I want to ask you is, I would like for you to talk about the image of Hex and Pulsechain and growing them beyond Richard Hart. Do you think that let me talk about the decoupling of Bitcoin. Do you think there's such thing as a decoupling of Hart?
That's funny. So there's an interesting thing that humans do, and I can't remember which psychologist it was, but he talked about the narcissism of small differences.
Mm-hmm.
So historically, Christians and Muslims, are two groups that don't get along. Mm-hmm. But do you want to know who Christians really hate? Bad Christians. They hate other Christians who are a little off, Baptist and Protestant. When it's in Muslims, you want to know who Muslims really hate? Bad Muslims.
Yeah.
Right. So the world hates America. You want to know who Americans hate? If you're from the North, you hate the South. If you're from the South, you hate the North. If you're from the East, you hate the West. We think that right and left or red and blue are so different. Everyone else just thinks we're Americans. Like, no one else can tell the difference between us, right?
It's true.
So there's that thing about, again, there's so much tribalism in crypto, and we're arguing about the small things. Everyone else just thinks we're crazy. You guys are either crypto guys or not. No one can tell the difference. Like, it's a golem, it's a link, it's a hex, it's a Bitcoin. What are you guys talking about? It's all internet money, right? So sometimes we really forget, because we're arguing, that we're all on the same damn team. Like, I would love for Link's value to go up. I don't own any chain link, but I would love for their value to go up, because it probably means participation from new money, right? Yeah. So when it comes to our heart decoupling here, is that we just have to break through some of these tribalisms and realize that these small differences we're arguing about most of the time are nonsense, and that what we really want is to grow the entire market. We've seen this both with people talking about, like, the size of the sacrifice volumes. Mm-hmm. I don't want a little piece of I don't want a big piece of a small pie. Exactly. I want a really big pie. So there's, we talk about, stealing market share from Ethereum, which would be awesome. Mm-hmm. But I want to grow the market share in general. Ethereum is full, and there is such a small market penetration of crypto when it comes to just general legacy finance, right? So Ethereum is supposed to be a DeFi platform, but if you compared it to just sort of general finance products that do similar things, it's extremely small. There are hedge funds bigger than Ethereum, right? There's just a group of guys, dressed like this, that are bigger than Ethereum. And this is our biggest thing, right? This is our whole platform. So the space is small.
Yes.
This stuff, these products, compare MetaMask to your Bank of America app or your Chase
Mhm.
or Wells Fargo. If you compare those two apps, MetaMask sucks. That thing is trash. You know, all these ancillary stuff is better and better and better in legacy markets, and we're catching up on that. So what we really should be doing is looking at growing the overall market share of crypto and not arguing about who's got better memes in some ways. Of course, I mean, we do have better memes. That's fine. But the whole point is, right, we want to grow these things and not be, we want to make sure that we flush out good decisions and design compromises between different experiments that are running inside of the space. But we want to grow the whole space. So again, that's onboarding no coiners. That's bringing in people who have exposure to it, maybe through BTC Grayscale or like apps like Robinhood. I don't want you on that trash. So we want to move everybody up a peg, right? So if you're a strong user now, or someone like yourself who hit a lick on one of these more meme style coins or something that has less market case, okay, well, I want to take somebody who's in bad coins and have them in good coins. I want to have someone that's in no coins, or someone that's maybe using like Robinhood or centralized exchange. I want to go ahead and, even if they want to stay in the same projects, let's get them hardware wallets. Let's get them actually owning custodianship. And if you're in no coiner, let's at least get you on Coinbase. I would rather that, worst case scenario, I'd rather that you are at least participating in the systems, having some exposure to crypto than no exposure, even if it's on a Binance or one of these trash things. Of course, I want to keep bumping you up the ladder in the rung, but I'd rather have you participating in the space in some way rather than sitting here with fiat dollars watching these guys print your money away and steal from you. So it's about moving everybody up a rung and making sure that we can really increase participation overall. It's a lot easier in some ways to bring in a couple $100 million of new money who's never had exposure than it is to try to wrestle it away from bad projects, right? It's easy to get people to believe. It's a lot harder to get them to doubt. So I can tell you that crypto is great and get people on. It's hard to get them to believe that their coin's not as good as your coin. So we want to attack these things from all aspects. A small thing that I've been trying to push, this is a small thing and people are like, what can we do for adoption? In Hex, I'm very particular about when people say the word interest, because one, it's incorrect, but I'm not so worried about their vocabulary. What it is that you are alienating a third of the world. Like anyone who comes from an Islamic country, that's riba, it's usury, they can't participate in interest. So you could be more correct in your vocabulary and use a more correct term, and you cannot alienate a third of the world. Whether you care about those people or not, you do want their money in your project, right? Yes. So if we could just be more correct in terminology, we can increase adoption. Like that's so easy. We can all do that right now. So it's really about looking at a lot of these things as a whole, because every problem's a people problem. So we just need to make sure that we're attacking these things from all aspects, realizing that we're people, and trying to find market share wherever it exists, whether it's in no coiners, whether it's in people only have access to things like Coinbase or Binance and their worldview is very small, or whether it's big whales and other projects, and explain to them that there's better projects being built. C5's the God well. This guy's made all this money in Ethereum. What did he do with it? He got into Hex and he got into Pulsechain. We brought in a big player there, right? Well, now let's go find some hedge fund cat who's got $10 million to throw around. I want his money in my project, and then I'm going to, walk around the domain. We're going to go find a couple of people here who have good jobs and they're trying to move 10, 50K in at a time, or they've got some Bitcoin holdings. Let me get you something with better price performance. So I'll pick up a dollar anywhere I can find it. We want to take all these aspects and make sure that we're being well-rounded and very, symmetrical in our approach to bringing in all these people into the ecosystem and, sharing our worldview.
That was a wonderful conclusion. I absolutely agree with everything you said. I really appreciate the way you put it, and I appreciate your forward, if it makes any sense, forward expression. The way I appreciate the way that you're very, very honest in the way you convey things that need to happen. So I really appreciate your time.
The truth is tough. You don't have to sugarcoat it. It's fine. It's very resilient.
You're damn right.
If you're telling the truth, I don't have to play games. I'll have evidence, I'll have facts, I'll have reality, I'll have data, because it's real. If it's real, I can prove it. So if you have the truth, you don't have to be gentle with it. The truth's very resilient.
Absolutely. Walrus, thank you so much for your time, and we definitely got to do this again, brother. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, guys. Just again, want to say so much thanks to the community.
Indeed.
While I don't take any funds, I get an unbelievable amount of gratitude on every platform ever. So I can't thank you guys enough for allowing me to participate in the way that I do. A lot of us are doing a lot of work. Corey, myself, the HowToPulse team, guys in a lot of these communities, overwatching these guys throwing big bags around C5. A quick little shout out to anyone who didn't happen to see the video, but D01, that's a famous wallet in Hex who you guys gave a lot of hard time to for selling down the price that he helped create. I just want to give him one more shout out. So sure. D01, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. No. You don't know who that is. It's an anonymous wallet. The community was a little rough on him. He gets called the mega dumper because he sold the price down a couple weekends in a row. So while he may not be the most sophisticated investor ever, doesn't use market orders, and sometimes he's a little rough on the price. One, he took the risk. He's from our community. He made a lot of money. We should all resonate with that. And then he dropped 10 ETH into the donation for HowToPulse to allow us to keep marketing. So he has helped pump your bags, even if you got mad at the short term at him taking some profits. So just remember that you hope to one day have bags heavy enough that you can wreck the price and people can bitch about you, and that he actually is giving back in a lot of ways. So let's give D01 some slack. Let's make sure that that we're grateful for all the work that's being done here. Make sure that you understand that time and market is how you make these gains. Let's stay educated. Let's stay vigilant. Be secure. Let's go make some money, guys. We're building something special here.
Amen to that, brother. Thank you so much, Walrus, for your time. Thank you.
Cheers, brother. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.